त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव बन्धुश्च सखा त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव सर्वं मम देवदेव। श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तिसुदेशिकेन्द्रं द्वैपायनं सूत्रकृतं मुनीन्द्रं श्रीशङ्करं भाष्यकृतं यतीन्द्रं मद्देशिकञ्चापि नमामि विद्यै। ॐ नमो ब्रह्मादिभ्यो ब्रह्मविद्यासम्प्रदायकर्तृभ्यो वंशऋषिभ्यो महद्भ्यो नमो गुरुभ्यः। सर्वोपप्लवरहितप्रज्ञानगणः प्रत्यगर्तो ब्रह्मैवाहमस्मि। ॐ प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। Pranams everyone. So we are doing the Daiv-Asura-Sampad 16th chapter in the first sloka. And here Bhagavan is actually enumerating all the values that a Daivi-Sampad person should have. And he will also be enumerating all the characters or gunas of a Asuri-Sampad person. So in the first three shlokas, Bhagavan is enumerating the values of Daivi-Sampad. In that, the first sloka, Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Abhayam Sattva Samshuddhihi Jnana Yoga Vyavastitihi Daanam Damascha Yajñascha Swadhyayastapa Arjavam. So in this, 9 values are enumerated. We had already seen 3 of them. The first 3, Abhayam Sattva Samshuddhihi Jnana Yoga Vyavastitihi. Then in the last class we had started with Daanam. Daanam was discussed elaborately in terms of what is the definition of Daanam, what are the 3 aspects to the Daanam, what are the various types of Daanam. And there we had seen the attitude in which we give is more important than to whom we are giving and what we are giving. And that determines whether it is a Daanam or a business transaction. The attitude is the one that is important. And we said this attitude should be with Shraddha. In Taittiriya Upanishad it says Shraddhaya Deyam. So it has to be given with Shraddha. It should be done with no superiority complex. The person receiving it should not feel any guilt, or he should not have any fear, or he should not have any inferiority complex, or even if he has, it should not be induced by the person who is giving it. So we should be aware of those feelings, what we are inducing in others. And Daanam should not be given only when asked. It should be given once we know that the other person requires it. So here, why we should be giving? We saw, we should be happy that we are on the giving side and not at the receiving side. So we should actually thank Bhagavan that we are on the giving side. We should be grateful for that. Because at any point of time, as I said, it can be, the roles can be reversed. We could be on the other side. And while we are giving this Daanam, we should be also grateful that, by giving, we are getting an opportunity to be helpful, and at the same time, we are collecting punya. So by doing Daanam, we are not doing anything great for the other person. We are only helping ourselves by actually gradually collecting punya. So, and whatever be that, whether it is food, money, Annadanam, Dravya Daanam, or Jnana Daanam, you do knowledge, you share knowledge, or even if you share time with others, everything is considered Daanam. As long as we do not expect anything back in return, it is Daanam. Now the next question will be, how do we start giving Daanam? Where do we start? Say charity begins at home. So first we will have to learn to share with people at home. So people who come to our house, the helpers, whoever come to our house, we should first help them. we should give them the same thing as what we eat and not something different for them. We should not be only focusing on giving only the leftovers and not anything nice at all. So that should be where we should be starting from. And that too, even when we are giving them, we should not have this feeling that, we should not have this thought that actually we are doing them a favor. Then it is not actually Daanam. It is about sharing. So first, the helpers at the home who come to our house, whoever those are the poorer section of the people, we should help them, we should treat them well. Then among our relatives, we should be able to adjust. We should be able to show some magnanimity among the relatives. So that is another way of Daanam also. Because if everyone can adjust, everyone can show magnanimity, then a lot of those issues in families and circles, relative circles, will not happen. And today in the courts, at least in India, there are so many property related disputes. That's because people have this Lobham, they have this greed, and they wouldn't want to share it with others. So this Lobham is the biggest problem for any human being. So having this magnanimity, having this, the feeling of adjustment, in Tamil we say vittu kuduttal, having that is very important. So that is another way to start in terms of inculcating this value of Daanam. Then from there we can start about, think about all those temples, ashrams, wherever it's possible, we should actually donate, and we should make them, we should do that for our society. We should do that for our society. Remember, whenever you are donating or whenever you are actually adjusting with others, especially among your family, within your relatives, do not take that to be your weakness. Sometimes people think that when I am actually giving away, or when I am giving away my things, they think it is, people might consider them to be weak. That is not true. The more we give, the stronger our mind will be, because we will see the effect of Daanam. What is it Daanam can do to our mind and our spiritual path? It is a very important value to have. We'll see that in a short while. Daanam is very important. And why do we generally not share things is because we have not understood the value of this value, or the benefits of having this value, or we have not experienced the benefit. And that is why we are not actually giving things or sharing things. So this is important. And as I said, the benefit of it is, once we realize the benefit of it, we'll be more inclined to give. We'll inclined to be giving more and more. As I said initially in the last class itself, this Guna, this is what separates the Daiv-Asura-Sampad and Asura-Sampad. And this Lobham, as I said, is actually a characteristic Guna of human beings. Every a Deva or Asura or a Manushya, every one of them have a characteristic Guna. So if you have a characteristic Guna, what is the characteristic Guna of a Manushya? Is actually Lobham, greed. Greed defines a human being. By nature, we are greedy. By nature, humans are greedy. That is the truth. So we'll have to overcome that. And if you want to say what is the characteristic Guna of an Asura, by nature, they are angry. Krodha is the Guna that defines an Asura. By nature, they are angry. And for Devas, their characteristic dosha is they don't have any sense control. They always want to enjoy. So these are the three characteristic gunas for these three sets of people. So as I said, for humans, Greed is inherent. Greed is inborn. And we would have noticed this even when you're a child. We wouldn't remember our childhood, but when we see other children, we will be able to notice this. If we have two children, if we give one child a little more than the other, then the child which has been given less amount would start crying. Although it may not require that, if you give the same amount at any other day, the child would probably will accept it. But the moment it comes to know that the other child has got more than what it has got, then it will start crying. We need to understand, therefore, that Lobham, this greed, it need not be taught to the kids. It is inherent in us. And if we want to break this Lobham, then Daanam is a character that we have to build. So Daanam is a value that we will have to inculcate. So if the thing is, if we use an object, we get some benefit. That is what we know. If we use an object, we get some benefit. But if the same object is actually donated, then we get a higher benefit. Suppose I have something, I use it, I am happy. But if the same object, if I am able to donate or if I am able to share it with others, the happiness that I get will be much more. This is the trick or the secret of what we need to see as a benefit from doing dana. The problem for us is Lobham has tied us up. Lobham is inherent and it has tied us up. And so has many durgunas. We have got a lot of durgunas in ourselves. In fact, if we always talk about liberation, mukti, freedom from what? Freedom from samsara. And what is this samsara? Samsara is nothing but these durgunas. All these durgunas, including Lobham. So kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsaryam, all these are durgunas. And we have a classic example of this Lobham in one of our historical characters, Duryodhana. Duryodhana was suffering from Lobham. You know, when Pandavas came back from their exile, Duryodhana refused to share what was rightfully belonging to Pandavas. And for the Pandavas, even when they were in the forest, they were happy. They were not complaining much. But Duryodhana, in spite of having such a huge kingdom, he was not willing to part with it. Pandavas asked for half the kingdom, he refused. Then Pandavas said 5 villages through Krishna, he refused. Even 5 houses, he refused. And he said he will not give them even a small pinch of land. So that is because of Lobham, greed, that I have to have everything. I cannot share with anybody. And because of which, throughout his life he suffered. He was never happy. Duryodhana throughout his life was always unhappy. In spite of having everything, that as a king, as a prince, he had everything. But in spite of all this, he was unhappy. And the reason is because of his character, greed, and that defining character, Lobham. Generally we say, if one does not have money, if I don't have money, I will suffer. Therefore, the corollary should be, if I have money, I should not suffer. That should have been the case. But then Duryodhana had a lot of money, and in spite of it, he was still suffering in his mind. All because of Lobham. So it actually proves 2 things. One, money will not bring us happiness. Money can bring us comfort, but I can be comfortably unhappy. Or even that comfort will not give me any happiness if I am really unhappy for other things. The second thing is, Lobham can make a person unhappy in spite of whatever we have. Contentment, if it is not there, it is going to be difficult to be happy. And so which means, if I am not having Lobham, then I will definitely be happy. If a person does not have Lobham, that person will definitely be happy. However much money might have, if I have Lobham, I will never be happy. So if I want to be happy, I will have to overcome Lobham, and Daanam is the only way to overcome it. And remember, as I said, this Lobham is an inherent guna. This is a bad guna within ourselves. So every opportunity that I get to do Daanam, I should take it. I should do namaskaram to the person who is receiving, because he is giving me an opportunity to get this punya and overcome my inherent bad guna. And I have to thank him for being the instrument. Because what I have is actually a dosha, a fault. Lobham is a fault in me. And this person is trying to eradicate that from me by being an instrument, by being at the receiving end. So every time I get an opportunity to do Daanam, I should. Lobham, greed, but Lobham also means, Lobham is greed, anything that I want to hoard. I want to keep more than what I need. Or some people say I have to save for a rainy day. But then it is not for a rainy day, they will be saving it for a storm. That much they will hoard. So hoarding or being stingy, say miserliness, all these are not willing to share. Some people have this feeling, inherent feeling, they don't want to share anything. That is all called as Lobham. For a second, if we do imagine ourselves, for a second, if we close our eyes and say, I do not have Lobham, I can share anything in my life, anything that I have in my life, I can share that with others. If I have that feeling itself will give me immense happiness. That happiness is immeasurable. And therefore, one of the things is we should keep imagining that I don't have Lobham. I don't have Lobham. This is called as auto-suggestion. And by auto-suggestion, we can actually inculcate this value also. Inculcate that I don't have Lobham, which means every opportunity I get, I will do Daanam. Shastra says, when the amount of happiness that one gets by doing a Daanam of a particular item, of a thing, the amount of happiness that a person gets from doing a Daanam is 100 times more than the happiness that a person gets by enjoying that item or possession or thing alone. So it's 100 times more I will get happiness if I'm able to share that. So once we get a taste of this, we should be able to, our mind should be subtle enough to understand these changes in our mind. When I give Daanam, when I do Daanam, when I do something for someone, and when I'm able to share this, my mind becomes lighter, I become happy. And our mind should be subtle enough to understand these changes. And once we are able to understand these changes, we will be able to do it more and more. So Daanam as a virtue, we'll have to cultivate that way. What is the other benefit of actually doing Daanam? Mana Vishalata. My mind gets expanded. Mana Vishalata. In Tamil we can say Paranda Manapanmai. This expanded mind is again a necessary qualification for receiving jnana. The mind has to be expanded. And whenever someone wants to do charity or help someone or do some public service, some people they stop themselves doing that because they think that the others might take them to be a fool. He's wasting your time, you are doing it for nothing, what is it in for you, why are you spending time with these kind of things? You could have actually make your time more productive, you could actually earn a few more dollars or a few more rupees. All those things they will say, or the person might itself start getting this thoughts that I might be told this way by the society. We should overcome that, and we should do service. Service is basically sharing time. I am sharing my time. So we should do that. The another problem for our mind is our mind constantly revolves around me, mine. What is happening within me? Is my mind happy or not? Is my body aching? Where are the problems in my body? How do I feel? The mind is always preoccupied with me and mine. What happens to my family? What happens to my children? What happens to... So this feeling is always there, me and mine. And the mind does not want to go beyond that. It wants to stay narrow. And as long as the mind stays narrow to me and mine, the ahankara keeps and the mamakara keeps building up. And this ahankara and the mamakara are the ones which will stop us from getting this jnana. So by doing Daanam, I am actually thinking of the other person. My mind goes beyond me and mine. I am able to see the society. I am able to see other person's point of view. I am able to do it for others. So therefore my ahankara and mamakara weaken. And by weakening of ahankara and mamakara, I become qualified to receive this jnana. So Daanam is another way to... Another benefit of Daanam is getting an expanded mind. And through that mind, I am able to receive this jnana. The third benefit of doing dana is preparing ourselves for old age. See, remember in our Shastras, we have this 4 stages of life. Brahmacharyam, Grahastha, Vanaprastha and Sannyasa. Those 4 stages are still relevant in some way or other. Except that Sannyasa probably we don't do it. But we still have bachelor life or the student life, Brahmacharya life or student life. We don't say bachelor, it's probably student life. Then Grahastha is basically the householder. And then the Vanaprastha is the retired life. We generally stop with that. But typically what happens, everyone must get sannyasa at the end. Sannyasa means what? It's not about putting on a kavi vastra and going out of the house. Sannyasa means mental renunciation. We will have to renunciate what we have. Renunciation, give up. I have to give up what I have. And that includes the control in the house, the money, my possessions and all those things. As we grow older, anyway we'll have to give up control on things, right? Otherwise, if we refuse to, the person who within the house, they will take it away one day. Generally, if you see the importance that a person has in the family, it will be reducing as we age. As we age, until the time probably we are still healthy, contributing to the family, we will carry an importance. People around us will listen to us. The moment we lose health, or we are not in a position to contribute financially, physically, then our importance starts reducing. And therefore the others will take up that void. And at that point of time, many people might feel bad about it. That I am losing control, people are not listening to me, they don't accept what I say. So instead of others taking this away and we feeling it bad about it, it is better to give up on our own. In Ishavasya Upanishad, it says, Tena tektena bunjitaha. It says, Tena tektena bunjitaha, save yourself through tyagam. Tyaga means renunciate, to give up. What we have to understand is, even now we think we own these things. I own this house, I own this car, I own this money. all those things. But what we have to understand is, anyway, we are only trustees in the hand of God, in the hand of Bhagavan. But even otherwise, what we should understand is, we may not have the authority or ownership for a long time, because over a period of time, as we get older, we will not be able to drive the car. So the son will say, you will not be able to drive the car, I am going to drive the car. You don't need a car anymore. If you want, you can take a taxi. So whatever I had is gone. And for the ladies, the daughter-in-law will take over the kitchen or the managing the finances. The TV will be taken over by the children. So everything will be taken away by one or the other. So as we grow old, anyway, we will have to give up on these things. So instead of things leaving us, it is better for us to renunciate. So by doing Daanam, we get mentally prepared for old age. And Daanam is a rehearsal for Sannyasa. While I do Daanam, I do a rehearsal for Sannyasa. Only a person who has trained well on Daanam, only that person can let go of things without ill feeling. Because it's no point saying that I have taken Sannyasa when there is a feeling that I shouldn't have let go of these things. The mental renunciation is more important than physical renunciation. So mentally, for us to be prepared, Daanam helps us get prepared for that. And finally, remember, in any case, even if you are able to enjoy it until the last moment of your life and you don't need to renunciate, one day death is bound to happen. At that stage, everything will leave us. And at that point of time, at least at that point of time, when Yamadharmaraja visits us, we should be in a position to let go of things and leave without any pain or anguish. That is very important. So Daanam is Sannyasa moolam, they say. And remember, Daanam, if a person is able to do Daanam, he becomes a hero. Look at Mahabharata. Karna was actually a self-centered person. And in many places, he was adharmic also. And yet, if you see, a lot of people like Karna and treat him like a hero. And that's because he had Daanam as his Guna. His primary Guna was Daanam. He was willing to share anything. He didn't have any Lobham at all. So if somebody has a lot of weakness, and that person actually starts doing Daanam, but he is doing Daanam, then what happens is those weaknesses also get hidden, because people do not see the weaknesses. They only remember that he has given me so many things. He is willing to share with the society. He is a philanthropist. So they only remember that side of that person. Whereas if another person who is inherently very nice person, but if that person is actually miserly, he doesn't want to share things with others, you can notice that he will neither get fame, nor will he be recognized by others, nor will he be recognized for other virtues that he has also. Daanam, a person who is able to do Daanam, who is able to actually share things, who is able to donate, that person will be remembered most. Because I tell you again, because Lobham is an inherent Guna. So to see somebody who is able to actually share things with others is something different for us. We will feel grateful for that person. So Daanam is an important virtue. Finally, fourth benefit, Daanam has got a direct benefit on Vedanta knowledge. As I said earlier also, this I have touched upon earlier, we have this aham bhava. Aham bhavam we say. Aham bhavaha. We have this aham feeling on our sharira. Whereas what Shastra says, Sarvatma Bhaavam we should have. We should have saying that all Atmas in all being as ourselves. We should be able to see all Atmas as in all beings as ourselves. But what this Aham Bhavam does, it only sees my Sharira as myself. The Sarvatma Bhaavam is where I will be able to see others also as me, and therefore whatever Sukha Dukkham that others experience, I am also able to experience them or feel them or understand them, because I am all pervading. So how can I extend this Aham feeling beyond my body? How can I actually get out of this body? Daanam can help us in that. Because as I give more and more, the me feeling, it extends beyond my body. We have a part of me feeling already in our children. That's why when the children eat, or when I am able to share things with my children, I feel happy, because I feel that it is part of me which is enjoying it, or it is me who is enjoying it. In fact, I get more happiness when my children do well, when my children do or eat what I am not able to eat also, or what I am not able to enjoy. This because of the me feeling that we have in our children. So if I get a Tirupati Laddu, for example, and I love Tirupati Laddu, and therefore I actually eat alone, I get some happiness. But if the same Laddu, that if I am able to actually share it with others, and if I see them eat, then the happiness that I get would be much more than the happiness that I get by eating. We have to be subtle enough to understand this, and the moment we understand, we will be able to do Daanam more and more. Because when I get that happiness, then it means that the me has crossed or extended beyond my body. And as I said, this is very evident in mothers. You will see that they will become more happy, or they become happier when they see their children eat, more than what they get by eating for themselves. They see them as an extension. So on that extension, what Shastra says is that extension should continue beyond our kids, beyond our children. The Abhimana should not be restricted to me and mine alone. Initially, it is okay to share it with our people. Initially, it is my family, my relatives, my uncle, my aunt. All those things are there. But later on, we should be able to extend slowly to even people whom we have dvesham on. Even if we have, even if we don't feel, if we have a hatred towards that person, we should be in a position to extend this Daanam to them. That Daanam will also help us overcome the dvesham. So Daanam is the initial sadhana to get Sarvatma Bhaavam. So just to summarize now, Daanam helps us to overcome Lobham. It helps us expand our mind. Third thing, it prepares us for Sannyasa. And the fourth one is, it helps us to get Sarvatma Bhaavam. So that is why we need to do Daanam. The important thing is the first one, to overcome Lobham. Because as I said, if one has Lobham, that person will be always sorrowful. A discontented mind will never be happy. However much the person might have, if the person feels that he has not had enough or he is not having enough, that person will never be happy. So, I'll give you an example. So we spend on so many places, right? We spend on so many places and we buy so many things. In some place, if we actually spend more than what it should be, Suppose if it costs about say 500 rupees and I spend 700 rupees there, I get upset and I get sorrowful because I should have spent 500 there. I somehow lost 200 there. Well, that more than this 200 I would have spent so many places, buying unwanted stuff, doing unwanted things. I would have spent another 1,000 rupees or $1,000, whatever it is. I would have spent in various places more money. But the reason for my sorrow is not that unwanted stuff. The reason for my sorrow is that I have lost that 200 there. And that sorrow is not because I lost 200. The sorrow is because of the Lobham that is in my mind, the greed that is in my mind, that I do not want to share, is the cause of this. And we have this sorrow, we feel sad, or we regret whenever we lose money on things or on people we don't like. We spend on for somebody we don't like, we get unhappy. And why we don't like that? It is because of Lobham. The Lobham, the money is not an issue. That I have spent, I'm capable of spending, that is not an issue for me. But the issue is the Lobham causes the disturbance in my mind, and that will be a problem. So as long as this disturbance in my mind exists, as long as there is this disturbance, Shastra Vichara is impossible, or at least it will be very difficult. I cannot sit and listen to Shastras. Shastras teach us that you are not this body, you are all pervading, you are everywhere. We will not be able to internalize that because I see everything as me and mine, them and theirs. So there will be a problem always. Even if I have a right on a particular object, this rightfully belongs to me. Even if there is a right on that object, it is better to let it go, because Lobham is a big obstacle. And Daanam is the way to overcome Lobham. There is no other way to overcome Lobham. In fact, in the same chapter, Bhagavan is going to say in Sloka 21, he says Lobham is the doorway to hell. He will say Trividam Narakasyedam Dwaram Nashana Matmanah Kama Krodas Tata Lobha Tasmad Etat Trayam Tvajet. He says there are 3 kinds of doorway to hell, and they are lust, anger and greed. Kama Krodas Tata Lobha. And he says, therefore, Arjuna, therefore to us he says, these 3 are so destructive to the self, and therefore there must be abandoned. Tyajet, abandon them. So Daanam is very important. We've spoken enough of Daanam, but there is more to Daanam. We will see it in the chapter 17. When we go through chapter 17, we will see more on Daanam. There will be much more to discuss there, where we will discuss about Satvik Daanam, Rajasa Daanam and Tamasa Daanam. So far for Daanam. So Daanam, so we have seen now 4 virtues. What are they? Abhayam, Sattva Samshuddhihi, Jnana Yoga Vyavasthitihi, Daanam. The first 3, we have seen the meaning, but there is also some Sampradaya Gurus also enumerate those first 3 differently also. They say Abhayam, they say Abhayam, fearlessness in following Dharma. We should not have any fear in following Dharma. Whoever, whatever they might say, or even if we are losing comfort, even if we are losing money, do not fear in following Dharma. So that fearlessness. Abhayam is considered here as fearlessness in following Dharma. The benefit of it is basically Sattva Samshuddhi, the second value. We'll get a Chitta Shuddhi, pure mind. The Sattva Samshuddhi, the pure mind will result in we get the qualification to do Jnana Yoga. So Jnana Yoga Vyavasthitihi. So that is how they have actually sort of discussed these three values. One of the Sampradaya Gurus. Anyway, that's just a side information. So now we have seen those three plus Daanam. Now the fifth value, Damaha. Damaha. In the second line of the sloka, we are talking the second virtue, the second word, Damaha. Damaha, we had already seen in the introduction to Vedanta also. It means, so we had already seen that elaborately there. We'll see in short here. Damaha means sense organs discipline, sense organs control, or we can say sense organ regulation. In Sanskritam we say Bahya Karana Shilata. Shilata means discipline, you can say control. Some people don't like the word control, so discipline. In Tamil we can say Olukam, or we can say Kattupadu. And Bahya Karana means Indriyas. We have Antakarana, which is the mind. Bahya Karana are the Pancha Jnanendriyas, or the 5 sense organs. And the 5 Karmendriyas. Total 10 Indriyas. So the 5 Jnanendriyas, which is the organs of knowledge, and 5 Karmendriyas, which is the organs of action. We can also say Damaha means Indriya Nigraha, disciplining the Indriyas. Again, Damaha is not an easy sadhana, it is a difficult sadhana. But we will try to make it simpler. We will try to see how best or how easily we can follow Damaha. Bhagavan here asks us to do Indriya Nigraha, basically control or discipline your sense organs. Let us do some vichara here. We are basically what we do, we feed the mind through the 5 sense organs. When we want to feed our stomach, we do it through our mouth. So mouth is the only organ through which we feed the body, the stomach, food. But for feeding the mind, we have 5 sense organs. Not just 1, 5. And just as how the stomach or the health of the stomach is basically determined by what we eat, the health of the mind is determined by what we feed through the 5 sense organs. Remember, mind is also a body. Mind is Sukshma Sharira, we have already seen. And mind is made of what is being fed. So if the mind is weak, then it is because we have been feeding the mind with such stuff that makes our mind weak and vulnerable. So if the mind is feeling weak, then we are not feeding it with the right things. Just like the body requires healthy food, the physical body requires healthy food, the mind also requires good and healthy inputs. And those 5 plays through these 5 sense organs: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin, and all those things. It is called as this discipline, or feeding it with the right things. That is called as Damaha. Damaha does not mean not to use sense organs. I should not use my eyes, I should not use my nose, I should not use my skin, all those things. Bhagavan has given all these sense organs for a purpose. They are for utilization only. But if we use the sense organs for bhoga, as in enjoyment, and not for vyavahara, which means transaction, that is a problem for us. we use it only for bhogaha and not only for vyavahara. The indriyas, they can be kept as bhoga sadhanas, or they can be kept as vyavahara sadhana, as in for transactions, or they can be kept as yoga sadhanas, which means for reading shastras and for listening to satsangas and all those things. So the choice is ours. How do we use the indriyas, or what do we use the indriyas for? Whether we want to use it for enjoyment, whether we want to use it for transaction, or whether we want to use it for spiritual growth. And what is damaha? If we understand this, then what is damaha? How can we define damaha now? Damaha can be defined as now not using the sense organs for primarily bhogas is called as damaha. Because primarily for bhogas, if we do it, or there is of course the other one which we have not touched upon, which is for registering anything bad, anything corrupt, anything immoral, any evil samskaras. If we do that also, we are not following damaha. So damaha means I taken the adharmic portion out. So dharmic enjoyment, using it for transaction, using it for spiritual growth. So anything, if we are using it primarily or only for enjoyment, or mainly for pleasing our or mainly for enjoyment, mainly for bhoga, then it is not, we are not doing damaha. And why it is actually so important, damaha? Because what happens is, once a thing goes inside through my eyes, once I see them, once it's registered in my eyes, it is going to be difficult to remove it. Once I see something, once I hear something, I will not be able to erase it. It's not like a blackboard or a whiteboard where I write something and I am able to erase it. My mind registers it, and once the mind registers it, it is very difficult to erase it. So that therefore, being aware of what goes into my mind is very important. And that's why they say out of sight means out of mind. So using these sense organs, if you properly, is very important. And once it goes in and it registers, I am not able to erase. That is one problem already. The other problem that I have is, it will come out as and when it pleases. The mind will throw up certain thoughts at the most what I can say, at the wrong time, at the time that I don't want it to actually bring it out. So because the mind is not in our control also. So it is important, therefore, what we store, what we bring in, what we see, what we hear, what we taste. It's very important. So this is why damaha is very important. The mind I cannot erase, and what is registered in the mind, I cannot erase it easily. And once it is in the mind, it can come out at the very inopportune moment. So now that I know this importance, how can I practice, and what are the benefits of damaha? Let me go through this importance again. So the importance of damaha is, the mind is actually, it's very important, I should do it. The mind, if I start studying, the mind has got two ways it can get disturbed. The mind can get disturbed in two ways. One is when the indriyas get in contact with sense objects. When I actually, indriyas get in contact with sense objects, is in when I see something, when I hear something, or when I taste something, when I feel something. That is when my mind can get disturbed. That is one. The second thing is, when indriyas are not actually active, they are closed. But what happens is the pre-registered samskaras, the things that have already gone into my mind, they may come up to my surface of the mind, and that can actually create some problem. So either we get disturbed when I see someone, so I don't like this person, I see this person and my mind gets disturbed. That is one way. Or I may not be seeing that person, but I just recollect what I had, the previous conversation from that person. Just like that, my mind brings it to my surface of my mind, from the deep mind. The thoughts come out, and then my mind gets disturbed again. So our mind gets disturbed by what we hear, or which is the first portion, or when we think of what the person had told me earlier. This person told me about this, he talked to me like that on that day. 10 years ago, in that particular event, you told me this way. This person told me that. So all those things, the mind keeps bringing it out. So even if there is nothing to feel unhappy about now, today I may be having no issue. I don't have any reason to feel unhappy. But what happens? The mind will go back, look into things that had happened sometime in the past, bring it out and make me unhappy. And that is the reason why my mind gets disturbed. So, and where does Damaha come into play here? In both places. Because not using indriyas on objects, things or people or situation where my mind can get disturbed is one way of Dhamma. So I should understand, or we should understand, where are things that can go wrong, where my mind can get disturbed, and I should avoid those things. So there is an example, an old man had a listening problem. And initially his hearing aid had a problem as well, and they were actually, the family members were treating him badly because he was not able to hear properly. Then he somehow got his hearing aid all rectified, and then the people started commenting about him, and calling names, treating him badly and all those things. He asked what can be done, and one Swamiji said, switch it off. Switch it off in both cases. Switch off in the sense, switch off the hearing aid also, so that you don't need to listen, and switch it off from your mind. Basically, do not take anything into your mind. Switch the indriyas off is the way. So generally what happens, whenever people speak ill of us, when they talk ill of us, it is natural we feel unhappy. It is naturally we feel unhappy. But what happens to us? We know we will feel unhappy if they talk ill of us. But yet what we do? We would want to call up another person to understand what this person had talked about me to you, knowing fully well that the other person would have talked ill about me. And then we would still want to hear what the other person said, only for us to feel unhappy. We seek unhappiness. We go and want to get our mind disturbed. We do not want to let it go. That is the problem with us. What if we see something bright, if we see something, our eyes get disturbed, immediately we want to let it go. We do not want our eyes to wander over that. In the same manner, we will have to treat our mind. If the mind has got some place where it can get disturbed, we should not wander over it, or we should not ponder over it here. We should let it go, and we should let our indriyas focus on something else. because we should not focusing on things, situations, people that can make us irritated. A problem for us, by nature we like to torture ourselves. So damaha is an important sadhana. We have to remove the indriyas from situations, from objects, from people, from relations that can cause us disturbance. Mouth has got two organs. One is the tongue for taste, which is the jnanendriya, and to speak as well, karmendriya. And therefore this mouth, nigraha on mouth is very important. Keeping control on mouth is very important. So both we should do mauna vrata as well as anna vrata. Vrata which is not having any food also. Today is Ekadashi, by the way. So I don't fast. So if you think that I am actually fasting, no, I am not. So mauna vrata and not getting addicted to taste, both are dhamma. Both are dhamma. More on this dhamma we will see in the next class. Right now I'll see if there are questions or comments. So Ashish ji, you have said, whatever is mine belongs to my family. Does that mean my Daanam has to be agreed to by my family? It depends. Normally it is said that a householder need not take the permission of the children, definitely. If it is his, he can give to others. But generally it is said in our Shastras to get the permission of the wife. The wife to get the permission of the husband to get the permission of the wife. But in certain situations, if the situation is such as an important one, the husband can overrule the wife or need not inform the wife, and the wife need not inform the husband if it is very important. It's an important issue. As long as it is within the realms of dharma, it should not be adharmic. Okay. Hari Om. Any other questions or comments? Okay. If not, then we'll see more in the spending less and give less because you don't have enough money is being miser. No. Simple life, having a simple life, I wouldn't say spending less and give less. Having a simple life does not make you miserly. That is the way I will put it as. A person, a daily laborer in India, if they actually donate say 100 rupees from their earnings, is much more than an IT person donating 1000 rupees. It depends on what you are capable of, not how much you are donating. That makes you whether you are generous or miser. Okay. Hari Om. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Swasti Prajabhya Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahimaishaha. Gobrahmanebhyo Shubhamastu Nityam Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Hari Om.
Hari Om.